Generally, the main reason why people study philosophy is because, well, they love it. And they think that philosophy is just one of the most exciting things to think about. And who can blame them? Right and wrong, good and evil, cause and effect, space and time, knowledge and evidence, logic and truth, God and animals, justice and law, mind and matter, reason and emotion, life and death, what is and what could have been, that's big stuff to study. To select a course of study simply because it's big and hard and fascinating is a courageous thing to do, and I would like to applaud all of you for doing it. Apart from the philosophical content of particular classes, what have our philosophy students taken away from their education in philosophy? As you may know, philosophy majors on average outperform nearly every other major on the LSAT, the law school aptitude test, and philosophy majors on average outperform all the other humanities, social science, business, and education majors on the GRE, the graduate school admissions test, and philosophy majors vastly outperform business majors on the GMAT, the admissions test for business school. But high scores on standardized tests are not the lasting benefit that we work to achieve in our classes. We take a lot of pride in helping to equip our students with the skills to think rigorously and to express themselves clearly. Philosophy classes cultivate the historical perspective that citizens need to think carefully about important public questions. Philosophy students learn how to distinguish strong arguments from weak ones. That's a very valuable thing, especially in a democracy, especially today. But again, I don't think that these skills, important as they are, really capture the lasting lessons of studying philosophy. Let me give you an example. Oftentimes in philosophy classes, we'll be studying an essay where some philosopher is defending some idea, and the philosopher presents what looks like the most devastating objection there could ever be to his or her very own proposal. The philosopher may end up endorsing some response to the objection, or the philosopher may not know how to respond to it. But the point is that the philosopher is forthright in presenting not only the arguments for her particular view, but also the best arguments that she can make against it. And typically the philosopher doesn't just grudgingly admit that, yes, there are some objections. Instead, the philosopher honestly exposes the objections, sharpens them, shows how powerful they are and how they might resist any quick response. Philosophers do this because the aim in philosophy is nothing less than discovering the truth. The aim is not to win some cheap, superficial debate of the kind that is seen every day in the media or online. Philosophers handle ideas rigorously with honesty and integrity. And I think that our students are better off for having taken part in such a genuine search for the truth. Another thing that our philosophy students get from their courses is some degree of comfort with not having all of the answers. I'm sure that our graduates today will agree that a philosophy class does not involve anything remotely like memorizing some particular view as the official right answer and then repeating that answer on an exam. Instead, philosophy students learn about various attractive-looking approaches to some venerable philosophical question, and how each of those approaches reveals that the original question actually contains a host of complexities and subtleties, so that by the end of the course, everyone has learned a lot, even if no one has arrived at a definitive answer to the original problem. Philosophy students learn not to panic if their first thought or their second thought or their 22nd thought turns out not to work. Philosophy students learn not to settle for their first thought, but instead to work hard to find their best thought. Philosophy students learn the virtue of knowing how to handle the discovery that one of their own ideas turns out not to work quite as well as they had initially expected it would. Philosophy students learn to value discovering the limits and shortcomings of various arguments. Philosophers celebrate counterexamples and paradoxes and open questions. Philosophy courses also cultivate a willingness to push the boundaries, to take lines of argument just as far as they will go. Of course, you might laugh a bit at yourself as you think about what precisely to conclude when Epimenides of Crete tells you that Cretans are always liars, or as you're thinking about whether you really have any evidence against the hypothesis that the universe sprang into existence only 5 minutes ago, with each of us possessing false memories of a past that never happened, or as you're wondering what the artistic value of the Mona Lisa would have been if it had been made by a machine that randomly tossed a lot of paint onto millions of canvases, and in this case, got extremely lucky. You can talk about these examples after the ceremony. But philosophers make good use of exotic examples like these. Philosophy students learn that if an idea turns out not to work in some extreme hypothetical case, then oftentimes this reveals that the idea also doesn't really work in actual realistic cases as well. The moments of thrilling high adventure in philosophy classes often come in drawing out the consequences of some view, in following the arguments wherever they lead. A final important lesson that students tend to take away from their philosophy courses is that there are no kings in philosophy. No matter who you are, you have to give reasons, arguments, evidence. You can't just say things and expect to be believed on the basis of your authority or your charm or your status or your beard or your saying that everyone knows it's true. In philosophy classes, we don't accept Plato's word for something just because he's Plato. He has to give us good reasons, and we get to question those reasons, to hold Plato responsible for what he's claimed. And the same goes for holding other students and teachers to account. That's a good habit to get into. In a philosophy class, no one can succeed just by asserting things, not the teacher, not the students, and not the philosophers we study. And I kind of wish real life were more like that. Today, my wish for all of the graduates we're celebrating is that your experiences as philosophers here at Carolina will help you to be more courageous, more patient, more intellectually honest, more willing to hold people responsible for giving good reasons for their claims, and more willing to see what happens when you push ideas as far as they will go. In this way, your Carolina philosophy classes will serve you well as citizens, as family members, on the job, and in every other capacity. And there's one more wish that I have for you. Yes, philosophy has required great self-discipline of you, a willingness to accept criticism from time to time, and that's not always pleasurable. But I hope that you have had many opportunities in your philosophy courses to experience the enormous pleasure that comes from exercising intellectual skill, from being creative, and from working hard to gain genuine understanding. Because we all know that if we enjoy something, then we tend to do it more often. And I hope that you will often draw upon your philosophical experiences here at Carolina. I hope that you will tell people proudly that you majored in philosophy and that you will be an ambassador for our field. My congratulations to all of you and best wishes from the entire philosophy department. It's now my pleasure to introduce our undergraduate speaker, Christina Barter. Christina is graduating with degrees in philosophy and computer science. In her time as a student, she's been a member of the Dialectic and Philanthropic Societies, DiPhi, a fellow of the Parr Center for Ethics, a student guide at the Ackland Art Museum, and a member of Honors Carolina. In her free time, when she's not reading philosophy, of course, Christina enjoys visiting art galleries, traveling to large cities, having meals with friends, and thrift shopping. Christina is attending Columbia Law School in the fall. Please welcome Christina Barter.
Well, thank you. And thank you so much for this opportunity to speak. I'm so grateful for my time in the program, and I loved getting to reflect on my experience while I was writing this. So I did not come to UNC knowing that I would be interested in philosophy. There weren't any philosophy classes or extracurriculars in my high school. And at the time I was reading a lot of Catholic theology, since it was the most rigorous moral stuff that I knew about. But during my first semester here, I was taking Dr. Lusher's first year seminar in ancient Greek philosophy, and I discovered that there was this entire field that asked what I considered to be the big, important questions. And immediately I was like, oh, this is the stuff I've been interested in all along. And so I declared the major. And I was lucky enough to get involved early on. And during my time at the Parr Center for Ethics, it was wonderful to volunteer for the High School Ethics Bowl, which was the high school program that I wish that I had. And I've truly loved the classes that I've been able to take for the past 4 years, from that delightful first year seminar to transformative honors seminars on gender and ethics, to mixed undergrad classes that were really difficult and expanding. And as I was writing the speech and reflecting on all the ways that I'd gotten better at philosophy, I found myself remembering really small, satisfying breakthroughs. One breakthrough was the first time that I read a philosophy paper and recognized every reference in the footnotes at the bottom of the page. For a long time, I had the feeling that I hardly knew anything about philosophy and was so behind. But when I realized I could just make sense of all the footnotes, I felt like I was on top of that paper. And I didn't know everything, but I had learned a lot. Another breakthrough I had was changing how I engaged with ideas, from asking, is this idea completely correct, to questions like, is this idea useful, important, or interesting? Or is this a question worth asking? And when I changed the questions that I asked, I found that I was interested in exploring a much broader range of ideas. A third breakthrough I had many times was discovering that questions I thought were easy were actually really difficult. I already knew that questions like what is justice was a difficult question, but it was exciting to discover that questions like what is a woman? How do we measure well-being? Does your identity survive over time? Were really difficult and really interesting as well. And I think the final breakthrough was discovering that a major task in philosophy is spelling out perfectly ordinary intuitions in careful and compelling ways. And knowing the classic attempts at answering some of the big questions made me much more confident in my own intuitions and in my own ideas. I became much better at stating my ideas as clearly as I wanted to. And one insightful past professor of mine said that when he was an undergraduate, he started out studying poetry. But when he began thinking about careers, he thought to himself, I will always be a poet. What else will I be? And so he decided to be a writer and eventually a professor. And in this sense, I think that I will always be a philosophy student. I can say that I will be reading and thinking about and talking about philosophy for the rest of my life. But I will also be a lawyer, a researcher, and whatever else I happen to become. I'm still deciding exactly what to do after law school, but I'm currently exploring things related to technology policy. And I'm excited to have a policy summer internship to try out some of this work. So I just wanted to say a big thank you to my friends and my family who are here today and supported me through the past 4 years. And thank you to my professors and graduate students for your support, for your encouragement, and for your excellent classes. And thank you to all the students who have made my time here so rich. So congratulations again to all the graduates, and to my fellow undergrads, congratulations, good luck, and have fun.
Thank you so much, Christina. The Worth Award is UNC's oldest academic award. It's given by the Department of Philosophy for sustained excellence in the study of philosophy. I'm delighted to introduce this year's winner, Annie Evans. Annie is originally from Zionsville, Indiana. At UNC, she's been a Robertson Scholar and a double major in philosophy and political science. This year, she combined those two academic interests, writing an honors thesis on partisan gerrymandering under the guidance of Professor Luke Bovens. All of her philosophy teachers have been impressed by the quality of her written work, her insightful and creative ideas, and her contributions to class discussions. I was especially pleased to hear from one of her professors that Annie crafted an exceptionally rich argument that Simone de Beauvoir's hopeful analysis of human love and friendship is more persuasive than Jean-Paul Sartre's pessimistic view that hell is other people. Annie hopes to spend the next few years working on voting rights advocacy before going on to law school. And please join me now in congratulating Annie Evans.
Thank you so much. I think about becoming a philosophy major my sophomore year, and as part of this journey, I wrote a article for the Parr Center for Ethics blog at the time, and I interviewed a bunch of other Parr Center members about why they studied philosophy, because at the time, my best answer was because I love it. And though in the last 2 years, I've come up with a million other reasons to study philosophy, I keep coming back to because I love it. And so in that vein, I would love to thank all the people who made me love philosophy, all of my professors, my teachers, my TAs, everybody else who has ever taken a class with me. Thank you so much. I would be remiss if I did not single out Professor Bovins for supporting me through making my undergraduate thesis the best experience that anybody could ever have. So thank you so much. Thank you to the philosophy department for this award. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Annie. I'm delighted now to introduce our graduate student speaker, Alyosha Barranco Lopez. Alyosha was born and raised in Mexico City, and it's worth noting that one reason she's here today receiving her PhD is because of the free public higher education in Mexico. During the pandemic, besides completing her dissertation in epistemology, Alyosha also trained her cat to sit down, lie down, turn around, stand on her hind legs, and high five. I don't know if we're going to get a demonstration of that today, but my dog Reggie is paying strict attention here. Please welcome Alyosha Barranco Lopez.
Thank you, Mark. First of all, you have no idea how happy I am to see all of you. So I really hope that I don't start crying in the middle of saying my speech. So here it goes. Many years ago, I was seduced by philosophy. During my first year of high school, my logic professor introduced us to philosophy with an unexpected question. How do you know that this chair exists? Of course, he was pointing at a chair. I had never before questioned anything so seemingly obvious. The students gave many answers to the question, and with each answer came a rebuttal. Because we see it. How do you know it's not an illusion? Because we can talk with others who also see it. How do you know it's not a collective hallucination? How do you know you're not dreaming? I felt how my brain started moving, trying to come up with an answer to this question, but at the same time, fascinated by the realization that there were so many other things that I had no idea how to explain and that I just have taken for granted. This first encounter with philosophy taught me that philosophy is beautiful and important. Philosophy is beautiful because it reminds us of how much there is to discover and come to understand in the world, including those things we usually think we know so well. Philosophy is important because it keeps us humble and open to the possibility that we can be mistaken about anything. When I started my PhD at UNC, I learned a couple of things more about philosophy. The first one is that doing professional philosophy is hard. You are expected to do many things at the same time. Take classes, teach, write a master's thesis, take a bibliography exam, write a dissertation. Additionally, you need to do all these things in the face of constant failure. You realize that you cannot come up with brilliant ideas for all your term papers. You feel like you could have taught a class better. You find yourself revising your essays over and over in light of the feedback your advisors give you, because there's so many things to make clearer, more precise, and to argue further. You start sending your papers to journals and they start getting rejected, and so on. Throughout these years, these interactions with failure might make one abandon the pursuit of doing professional philosophy. It can be too disheartening at times. My first major experience with failure was during my first year as a graduate student here at UNC. It was the last week of classes, and I had meticulously divided all the hours of my week to finish all my final papers, when suddenly I realized that I had not made time to study for my logic final exam. At that moment, that mistake seemed impossible to fix. I was in the middle of the office that all the first years shared, and I started crying. I felt the imminence of failure, and I was convinced that I was the only one struggling. After I started crying, something wonderful happened. All the women of my cohort came to me and collectively hugged me. The men were in the back, uncomfortably yelling things like, "It's going to be fine," but let's not focus on them. The women in my cohort took me to get a bagel, and they all shared with each other how they were also struggling with classes, how they were tired, and how they were not sure what the expectations were in such and such class. Knowing that I was not the only one struggling helped me feel that I was in the right place and that my experiences with failure were normal, not a sign of my inability to do philosophy. This is the second thing I learned about philosophy. Doing professional philosophy is hard for everyone in different ways. Realizing that one is not the only one struggling is not enough to prevent one from quitting. Everyone's situation is so unique that it's difficult to point out exactly what would cause someone to leave the profession. However, being constantly reminded that others care deeply about philosophy and about one's success can help one keep going in the face of adversity. At UNC, I got that. I had a net of support constituted by friends, mentors, and the department itself. I was part of a community of friends that studied, laughed, cried, and celebrated our successes together. We would go to the Chapel Hill Public Library on the weekends and stay all day long studying together. Studying like this never felt like a burden. It was always fun. I also was lucky enough to find mentors who took me and my work seriously, who read and critically engaged with hundreds of pages I wrote, and who had long conversations with me for hours every week. Lastly, but not less importantly, during the weekdays, I got recharged with freshly brewed coffee from the department's fancy coffee machine and the conversations I had with whoever was waiting for their coffee too. I have particularly fond memories of my conversations with Luke Bovens, who always had a conversation topic to discuss with me about Latin American music or politics in Mexico. All of this leads me to the third thing I learned about philosophy during my time at UNC. Doing professional philosophy requires a communal effort. Missing support from our friends, your department, or your mentors could push you out of this honorable endeavor. This year has been extremely hard on all of us, inside and outside the philosophical community. We have faced a massive amount of loss, and we have had to keep going regardless of the adversities. For us, lovers of wisdom, undergraduate, master, and PhD students, this means that this year was much longer than any other year. We could not meet with our friends to work together, or have in-person conversations with our mentors, or share a physical space with our community while waiting for coffee. We had to face the failure that comes from doing philosophy seriously without our usual net of support. Graduating in May 2021 is a big achievement, not only because of the difficulties of doing professional philosophy, but also because we had endured those difficulties under conditions of solitude. Today, we are all together in the distance, reminding each other that we have a community that has held us in the past, that will hold us in the future, and that in return, we also support. I have been so privileged to be educated by such wonderful and accomplished professors, and it has been my pleasure to teach undergraduate students at UNC Chapel Hill. Congratulations to all of us. We deserve to celebrate this big achievement together. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Alyosha. I'm looking forward so much to the day when we can gather around that fancy coffee machine again. It's now time to recognize our graduate student degree recipients from this year and last year who are with us today. When your name is called, please feel perfectly free to unmute and take a moment to say anything you'd like. And audience members, I see I don't have to urge you to use the chat function. I'm only sorry I've been missing all of the chats that have gone by, but please feel free to use it or show your support with the reactions button. So first, those philosophy graduate students with us today who received master's degrees last year, and that is Ben Schwartz. Next, unless Ben, no, next. Those former philosophy graduate students with us today who received last year the highest academic degree, their PhDs, the Doctorate of Philosophy in Philosophy. First, Macy Salzburger.
Hi, thank you so much, Ali. That was such a beautiful speech. I owe many thanks to the faculty at UNC, so those with whom I worked really closely, such as my brilliant advisor, Susan Wolf, and those who I didn't get as much opportunity to work with, but who I admired from afar and looked at as philosophical role models. I see Jen right in the middle here, so that's one brilliant example. I'm grateful also just to the broader philosophical community at UNC, the faculty, the staff, the students, and the family members of the department. So she's not here today, but Robin Hill deserves a special shout out for having supported so many graduate students, myself included, over the years. And then special thanks are also owed to my friends, especially Elle Townsend, who came today, Deanne Spicer, and M. Hernandez. And then I couldn't have completed my PhD without the support of my family. So thanks, Mom and Dad. You're somewhere in that long queue of names at the side. And also my partner, who is sitting by my side, but hiding from the camera. So thanks so much.
Keshav Singh.
Well, I'm very glad that I finally have the chance to express how meaningful UNC, being at UNC was to me, given the sort of anticlimactic end to my time there last year. I had such a great experience at UNC that the hardest thing about finishing my PhD was coming to terms with no longer being part of the department that I had called home for so many years. I want to first thank my advisor, Ram Netta, my committee members, Alex Worsnip and Jeff Sarah McCord, and all the other faculty I worked with during my time at UNC, many of whom became not just my mentors, but my friends, and all the great friends I made among the graduate students as well. I also want to thank my family, who are here somewhere in Zoom land, for always being so supportive of me, even as I continued to make impractical decision after impractical decision. But it worked out in the end. Last, I want to thank my favorite philosopher, my partner, Lindsay Brainerd, who's also here, who I met at UNC, and made a very impractical decision by convincing to go out with me, even though she had very serious reservations about the complications that would come with dating another philosopher. But we are finally in a position where we are about to be in jobs together as professors of philosophy at the University of Alabama, Birmingham. So that's some good news I can give right now. But yes, thank you everyone in the UNC community. It was the best part of my life to be there.
Thank you, Keshav. Now, those graduate students receiving master's degrees this year who are here with us today. Gabriella Hosey.
Thank you to my cohort. I don't know, and obviously all of the grad students, I don't know how I could have gotten through any of grad school, but particularly this year without you. Thanks to my MA committee, Sarah, Jen, and Jim, for such a treat in what is, I think, not supposed to be a very, maybe not supposed to be not an enjoyable process, but not enjoyable by, you know, it's not designed to maximize enjoyment. I had a lot of fun. And thank you to Pavel and Alyosha for both advising, being my peer mentors and advisors. You saved my bacon a number of times, my vegetarian free range bacon. Yeah, thank you.
And now it's time to recognize those graduate students receiving the PhD, the Doctorate of Philosophy in Philosophy, this academic year. Alyosha Barranco Lopez.
Thank you. I do have some thank yous to give. So first of all, I want to thank my family, but they don't speak English and they hear, so I'm just going to switch to Spanish for them. Papá, mamá, hermana, muchas gracias por todo el amor que me han dado y por la libertad que me dieron de escoger cualquier carrera que yo quisiera. Thank you so much. And I want to thank my friends. I mean, all of you who are here, and especially Ada, Daniel, Minji, Chris, Joanna, and Dominic, who is my husband too, not only my friend. And to my new family, the Bergers. And before I forget, to my fabulous mentors, in particular, Alex Worsnip, Ram Nera, Carla, Marino Rachme, and Mariska Lunisen. All of you have helped me get here and to become a better person and philosopher. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Chris Blake Turner.
Thank you so much to so many people, especially my friends and family who are here, not least of all my amazing cohort mates, Alyosha and Em, and also the rest of our cohort, the best cohort of all time, that maybe they're not all graduated today, but they're still the best cohort of all time. I want to thank all the faculty at UNC who've mentored me or who I've learned from in some shape or form or other, especially my committee members, Matt Hodson and Alex Worsnip, and of course my advisor, Ram Netta, from whom I learned not only to be courageous in the pursuit of my philosophical ideas, but also in what is acceptable to eat as a mid-seminar snack, like a raw bell pepper.
So many questions, I'll have to restrain myself. Matt Hernandez.
Hi, thanks everyone. I want to say just, it's an incredibly difficult thing going through both college and grad school as a first generation college student, where my parents did not fully understand everything that I was doing, yet still remained completely supportive. But one of the difficulties when doing that is that you sometimes need to find extra family somewhere. I'm glad I was able to find it in the philosophy department here, whether it was among my extreme superstar committee of Susan Wolf, Sarah Stroud, Jen Morton, and Carla Marina Ram, as well as my amazing cohort, which Chris mentioned is in fact the greatest cohort, as Alyosha so eloquently kind of explained to everyone during her speech, as well as my other close friends I've made, like Macy Salzburger, Al Townsend, and Deanne Spicer. So thank you everyone for being so supportive and helping us all.
Thank you. We are retiring your number, cohort, just so you know. Now it's time to recognize this year's undergraduate degree recipients. When your name is called, please feel free to take a moment to say anything you'd like. You can give a shout out to family and friends in the audience, or say something about your plans for the future, or thank a favorite philosophy professor, or recall a favorite experience, or say anything or nothing at all. And audience members, of course, you have your buttons and chat to show your congratulations. Christina Barter.
Well, thank you again. I covered a lot of it in my speech, but in particular, I would just like to thank like all the friends I've made in the department, the philosophy graduate students who are with me in the classes I took for being kind and supportive, and especially for Phil Bold and professors Sarah Stroud and Carla Marino Ramier and Luke Bovens. I'm scrolling through, making sure I haven't missed everyone. Susan Wolf and Jennifer Morton for giving me like wonderful advice and talking to me in office hours and just really taking the extra time to make me feel supported. So thank you.
Nicholas Doken Botman.
Yes, hello, thank you so much. I guess I'll keep mine focused to thanking my parents especially, who from a very early age inspired me and wanted to create all these conversations about questioning the world and our existence and all of those things, which was, you know, why it was really concerning to me, why they were so surprised when I became a philosophy major eventually, because they were the ones that basically led me on that path. But yeah, I've had incredible professors here. I just want to give a shout out to Professor Morton, Jen Morton, who really solidified my love for ethics and philosophy and the intersection of policy and philosophy. So thank you to her for making this semester absolutely brilliant.
Liam Bendazoo. Darian Renee Buck.
Hi, thank you all so much. I want to thank specifically my mom, who happened to hop on today, for calling me Little Socrates and getting mad when I always asked her why when I was little. It definitely encouraged me on my path. I'd like to thank the whole philosophy department. There's so many professors here that have taught me and guided me and encouraged me in numerous office hours and coffee talks. I'd like to thank you all. There's so many to name. And a special thank you to the Parr Center and Sally Moore for creating a safe space for me this entire undergraduate career. This is not goodbye. I hope to stay here. I mean, I'll be here for grad school, so you'll definitely be seeing more of me as a graduate fellow for sure. Thank you all so much. I really appreciate it.
Christian David Davila. Bebe Du.
Hi, yeah, I just want to say thank you to Professor Luke Bovens, who like tolerated my procrastination for like writing my honor thesis. And I also want to thank Professor Jeff McCord, because I took that was my first philosophy class in Carolina, and it was an amazing class. I had a good time. And I also want to thank Professor, I'm so nervous, I forgot the name, Jennifer Morton. Yeah, thank you for the PPE capstone class. I learned a lot from that. And also I just want to say like, it wasn't very easy for me to like study philosophy in a second language, but I had a lot of fun during my 3 years in Carolina, and I really appreciate myself for studying philosophy and for keeping on studying philosophy in the future. Thank you.
Andrea Marie Efthimiou. Anna Delplan Evans.
Yeah, hi. I realized that I hadn't thanked my parents and my brother who are sitting with me here today. And so I wanted to make sure that I mentioned them and how much that they supported me throughout this whole process and didn't judge me too much for switching from statistics to philosophy and making my life a little bit harder. Thank you.
Veronica Michelle Griffin.
Hi, I just want to say thank you to all of my friends and my family who are here today and who have supported me throughout my whole undergraduate journey. I want to give a special thanks to my advisor, Luke Bovens. He was just absolutely wonderful and great, and I really enjoyed working with him with my honors thesis, and I'm just extremely thankful for him. I want to say I'm very thankful for this entire philosophy department. My experience here has been amazing. A lot of people have said it was just different they found out like they were answering questions they've always had for a long time. And that was the same experience for me. I've just been so happy with this experience. I see Joanna Lawson. She made a very big impact on me years ago in Philosophy 101. So many people to name, but I'm just very thankful and I'm very happy to be here today. Congratulations to everyone.
Rupanil Jain.
Hi. I just want to give a quick thanks to my parents. I think they're on this call. And Professor Bevins, yours was the first philosophy class I took here at UNC. And it was what inspired me to become a philosophy major. And then Professor Lunison, your class last semester was by far one of the most thought-provoking and intriguing classes I've ever taken. So I really appreciate that. And to all my friends on this call, congratulations. I'm so excited for all of us to graduate and finally hopefully be done with Zoom University. Yeah, thank you guys. Congratulations.
Joseph Keys.
Yeah, I just want to say a quick thank you to all the amazing professors I've had. Every single one of them in the philosophy department has been amazing. And I also want to thank my family who's here on the Zoom call and who couldn't be here also. So thank you guys so much. I wouldn't be here without you.
Evan Tyler Liebgott.
Thank you, Dr. Lang. Your philosophy of science class I took a couple years ago was the first philosophy class I ever took, and it's a big part of the reason that I'm a philosophy major today. I also want to thank all the undergraduates for such stimulating conversation in classes, as well as other great professors I've had, like Dr. Lunison, Ben Schwartz, Minji Jang, and Alex Worsnip. And thank you to all my family who showed up remotely to watch me graduate today. Thank you very much.
Melanie Laor Luna. Caitlin McNeef.
Hi, everyone. I just wanted to thank my family for always believing in me and the philosophy department for always providing great insight and limitless research sources. I really enjoyed my time at Carolina. Congrats to all the grads and go Heels. It'll always be a great day to be a Tar Heel.
Kenneth Nana Tobechukwu Omabu Okafor.
I just want to give thanks first and foremost to my Lord and Savior, the King of Kings, Jesus Christ. I want to thank my family, my friends, you professors at UNC. I guess some of my favorite classes I've taken have been with Professor Ram Netta and Professor Marcus Cole. I don't know if they're in here, but thank you. I'm hoping that I'll be able to use all my skills with critical thinking, I guess evaluating my own ideas as well as others as I go forth and try to do some ministry in a reformed denomination. So I'm thankful for the time here, and I feel like I've been, I've grown some. So thank you, and the motivation to grow my beard too. So yeah.
Elizabeth Raleigh Sloan.
Hi, yeah, I want to thank my family, my moms and my brothers for listening to my persistent questions and rambling. Thank you to all the professors within the department as well, especially Jeff, my very first philosophy professor, and then some of my more recent professors who are on the call, Professor Lunison, Dr. Alyosha, Professor Spicer. And also thank you to this PAR Center, Sarah and Sally. I'm a business double major, so it was a very important and valuable space for me to have. And thank you to everyone else who was in my classes and just made it such a valuable experience. Yeah, thank you all, and go Heels.
Jesselyn Smith.
Hi, I'm not sure if my audio is doing great. It is? Okay, cool. Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you. Philosophy is the only major I could have ever seen myself in, and I really appreciate all the professors that challenged me and supported me in equal measure, both inside and outside of the classroom. And hopefully I'll keep, I don't know, I lost my train of thought. I'm nervous. So thank you.
Struhinia Spasoyevich. Mary Anna Spector.
Hello, I wanted to first give a very big thank you to my sweet parents for their endless love and support through this whole journey. I wanted to thank all of my wonderful friends that I've met over Zoom and at UNC, some of which are here today. And I also want to give a very big thank you to the wonderful philosophy department here at UNC, especially those who taught me, such as Dr. Lunison, Pavel Nachovsky, and Z. Kwanbeck. It was such an honor receiving my degree here for philosophy, and I'm excited to bring what I've learned here at UNC to Elon Law School this fall.
Grant Thomas Wise. Now, every year when I finish the names, I'm always worried that somehow through some dreadful clerical error, I've left someone out. Is there someone I've left out? Well, marvelous. Then let's have a final round of Zoom applause for all of the graduates here today.
Hooray! Woohoo! Well done. Well.
Well, I would like to close the ceremony by thanking you all for coming and by mentioning that, in my humble opinion, of all the majors at Carolina, philosophy has not only all of the virtues I mentioned earlier, but also has the best jokes. And I'd like to close the ceremony by telling you my favorite philosophy joke, a very old one. It concerns a nervous young man who's about to go on a date arranged by a matchmaker. And he asks the matchmaker how to make small talk with his date. And the matchmaker says, "Don't worry, you can talk with her about anything. Talk with her about food, talk with her about family, talk with her about philosophy." So the date begins and the conversation quickly falters. But the young man remembers the advice: food, family, and philosophy. So he asks her, "Do you like pizza?" But she simply says no, and the conversation stops. So he moves on to the next topic, family. He asks her, "Do you have a brother?" But she says no, and the conversation stops again. So now he must turn to philosophy. Undaunted, he asks her, "If you had had a brother, would he have liked pizza?" That's philosophy. Thank you, everyone. Congratulations, graduates, and good evening to everybody.
Mark, I'm seeing in the chat that we actually did miss Yifan Lee.
Oh,
so if we could recognize
I'm
them.
so sorry. Thank you. If that was Jordan's disembodied voice.
It was.
Yifan, are you with us here today?
Yeah.
Yifan Lee, Master of Philosophy.
Cool.
Way to go, Yifan Lee.
Glad to be the cause of a rare administrative error. I think this only happens like once in 5 or 10 years. Very lucky. So thanks everyone. But yeah, thanks everyone for pointing this out in the chat. Yeah, thank you.
Congratulations, Yifan, and congratulations to all of the graduates here today and to those who weren't able to attend. Thank you again.